Welcome back to another episode on the Expand Your Awareness 2.0 podcast. My name is Aaron Doughty, and I'm excited to be back with you. This is the first podcast episode in Zen New House. So for those of you that don't know, I am now dividing my time, or not dividing. I don't want to divide anything. I am using my time and going back and forth between Las Vegas and Sedona. And Sedona is one of my favorite places in the world. Super high vibration here. Been here for about 5 days now. I'm starting to get settled in with videos and making, like my daily routine and stuff. Normally when I came to Sedona, what I'd be doing is I'd be like, just here specifically to like relax or celebrate or have fun or go to the, ground myself. Now it's different though, because now it's like that I'm here, I'll be here much more often. It's more so like I got to figure out how to keep my daily activities mixed in with what I do every day. So one thing I'm learning to do is right now I'm doing a podcast episode, so the first one in Sedona. And I've had some pretty profound experiences since being here for like the last week. I don't think I've been here a full week yet. However, the idea that I had for this podcast was being in Sedona. One thing that I want to start doing is having influencers, other people that maybe you would love watching or you do know about yet already, but you don't know about already, inviting them here to Sedona and then doing a podcast episode actually in the very room that I'm in right now. I'm converting this room that I'm in. It's going to be kind of like a office slash podcast studio slash chill space. There's going to be instruments around. There's going to be podcast equipment. And it's going to actually, the podcast is going to be sitting on the floor. I'm sitting on the floor right now. I'm on a little cushion. And when other people come, there's going to be like 2 or 3 of us, or however many people sitting on cushions and talking. It's going to be very casual. I think it's going to be very cool. So I hope you guys are excited as I am, because I put a lot more energy in a podcast these days. And I'm excited for that. So I've met, the synchronicity in Sedona is profound. I have met so many cool people. And I've also, it's one of the places where I meet the most people that like have seen my videos and stuff, more than any other place in the world. And I find it interesting because I'm so not used to it. I'm still getting used to it. So if you come to Sedona and I see you or I meet you and I'm like I'm not weird about it, but it's like, I'm just getting used to it, I guess you could say. I love meeting people. But yeah, Sedona is it just attracts the kind of people that you would be into if you're listening to this episode, or it's like our kind of people, I guess you could say, just high vibe people, people into the metaphysical stuff, into this kind of information. So it's a very powerful place. Now, I had a very cool experience yesterday, and that's what inspired me to make this episode. And this episode's on music and using music to raise your vibration. And I wanted to share about my experiences that I had meeting someone who is considered, you could definitely say musical genius in some ways. Very, someone that's very, I wouldn't say musically gifted, but I think the person that I'm talking about he like believes everyone has like this musical gift inside of us. His motto is that music is medicine, which I found very poetic and very like just really cool in general. And music really is medicine. Music has the ability to heal the soul, and music is something that, it can emotionally move you. In my own life, I've kind of gone in and out with how I use music. I'm going to share with you the high vibe music that I listen to, or what I perceive to be high vibe that at least raises my vibe. And yesterday, let me just kind of tell you the story of how this whole thing came about. So there's a guy, his name is Parangi, and Parangi, he is is very amazing musician. He is he plays many different instruments, including the Didgeridoo, including drums and flutes and so many different instruments. And he has a lot of music that also a lot of people that are into plant medicine. I know a lot of people that are into plant medicine listened to and have heard his music before. And So if you're into that kind of vibe, that kind of music, or just any kind of music in general, he's amazing. And what he does is something really cool. He does this thing where he plays music, and he has like some type of soundboard technology thing to where it loops it and then he keeps adding different things to it until it makes this huge ensemble, and he does that like live and stuff. Anyways, we were at like 3 weeks ago, about a month ago, we were at this place, and we were chilling here in Sedona at there's this Oak Creek, and we were chilling, and there was this, and I was with like 5 or 6 different friends. I was with Victor, his wife Patty, with friends Josh and Dana. No, Leeor wasn't there. Just a whole bunch of friends were there, and we were chilling. And this local guy that we've seen a couple times at the same spot that we go to was like, "Oh, hey, we're talking to him for a minute." He's like, "Yeah, have you ever heard of Parangi? He's coming right now. I'm meeting up with him." And 2 or 3 people I was with immediately knew who he was. And I've heard his name before, and once I heard his music, I knew immediately who he was, because I've heard his music many times. And a few of the people we were with got super, super excited. So we're sitting there chilling and having fun, having a good time. And then he like emerges kind of out of the back, and he's with his partner, and he's a really nice guy. We just talked for like a second, and then he was like coming through or whatever. We were actually at the point leaving, and it was like a very small thing where I got to meet him, and he's just a real cool guy, and a lot of the people I was with were really excited to meet him. And then that was that. And then what happened is, lo and behold, I moved to Sedona, and I'm here with my friends Drew and his girlfriend Rebecca. My buddy Drew, he's well known. He owns a company called Organifi, and a superfood company, and he had a connection and has actually talked to Parangi before. And it was like a small world. So he came over like yesterday, and we jammed out for like 3 or 4 hours playing music, and he told us a whole bunch of cool stories, and super genuine, super authentic guy, and also just very talented and very interesting. And I wanted to kind of share with you some of the experiences with that. Now, first thing I told him after we started talking, we started connecting, is one of the things I told him is like, yeah, my intention is to let go of my belief that I'm not as musically gifted so that I can start to play more music. And then his response was like, he believes we all have this ability to tap into the music. And I remember we asked him, we were like, what is your favorite instrument? And he kind of laughed. It was almost like you're asking somebody who their favorite kid is. And of course, it's like, you're not going to answer. He probably has different, relationships with all these different instruments, depending on what he's in the mood for, or, different appreciation for them. And then he said, our body is the biggest instrument, which I resonate with. Our body is an instrument in of itself. And if you learn how to master and play the music of your own body, that's where the most magic comes in. So that was something that, then eventually we sat down and we started playing, and we were playing, and he showed us how to do this thing with the drum, where you kind of like lick the tip of your finger, and you move it, and it vibrates the top of the head of the drum, and you have to do it just the right pressure. If it's too much, it'll just kind of slide across, and if it's too light, it just kind of brushes as well. And it made this really cool like sound, and it was like there's parts of the drum that you don't even know you can make music with just by touching it, and just by doing it in certain ways, and like kind of doing things you weren't really aware of. And it was really cool. We jammed out. We played the hang drum for a while, and he showed us the different notes, and he explained a couple things too that was very poetic when he was like talking. One of the things he said was we were talking about like being musically gifted. And even, what's funny is I used to play the trombone in band in high school, in middle school for 3 years, and then in band. And I was super passionate about it. I at one point actually thought that I wanted to be a musician when I grew up, or like a band teacher or something like that. That's how passionate I was about band. And many of you know my past, but from like 7 to 16 years old, I had no freedom in my life. So my escape was school. So I think I put all my energy into music and playing the trombone. And I was really into music, reading sheet music. I played the trombone at the euphonium, which are both kind of like similar in some ways. And then what happened was I was at a high school that was like a good high school for band. And what happened is I then got zoned for like a new school because this new school was built, and I did not want to go to it because I wanted to stay at the school I was at, of course. But I ended up having to go to this new school. I went from Silverado High School in Las Vegas to Del Sol High School in Vegas. And when I made that switch, the band program at Del Sol was so new that a lot of the people coming in, because it pulled from 3 different schools, and one of the schools it pulled from, they didn't really have a band curriculum. So I was my first year. Freshman year. I went to Silverado, good band program, like advanced, and I felt like I was challenged. Then sophomore year, I was at Del Sol, and the band program was I was with a lot of people just learning to play instruments. Whereas I already played 4 years of instrument in middle school, and these people didn't play instruments, so I felt kind of like I was kind of bored. I wasn't really being challenged. So sophomore year, I quit because I wasn't after sophomore year, junior, senior year. I didn't do band. I did forensics debate, which actually worked out well because I'm doing what I do now. And I think that had a powerful effect on it because I learned how to speak and how passionate I was about that, using my voice. I guess voice is music in many ways as well. But in general, I kind of toned it out. And since then, it's like I've always kind of defined myself as somebody that's like, oh, I'm a speaker. I'm like a presenter. I like to speak and charismatic. And that's like who I am. That's my identity. And I almost forgot that for 5-6 years, I was super into music, So meeting Parangi, he's like super into all these different instruments and stuff. And we were jamming with him. And here's an interesting story that he told us. Just to show you that music is in all of you. All of us can redefine ourselves as being more musical. Since meeting him yesterday, I'm dedicating a couple hours, like an hour a day to playing music. I'm buying a hang drum. I am playing. We have a piano at this house in Sedona. Because I moved in with my buddies Drew and his girlfriend Rebecca here. We all have the house together, and he brought a whole bunch of instruments because Drew really likes music, so it works out well because I get to kind of share some of the same drums and stuff like that. But I'm dedicating like an hour a day to this because I could see how good it is for my energy, and a lot of it's me redefining myself as being more musically gifted. It's a belief. It's like we just believe we're not. And because we believe we're not, we don't tap into those parts of ourselves and those gifts. And as I was playing yesterday and I started to let go of the mind, it's really a meditation too. When you're like playing a hang drum or you're playing a drum in general or creating any kind of music, if you just get out of the mind and get in your body, this music just wants to flow through. So anyways, an interesting story. I'll eventually have him on the podcast, I think. I'm going to ask him to come on. I'm sure he will. I would definitely want him to come on. I'll see if he will. And one story that he told us that I thought was super cool, super interesting, is there's this instrument that is called the didgeridoo. The didgeridoo. And it's this huge instrument that like is very long, and there's this horn at the end of it. It's like one that you would see people at the top of a mountain doing, like stereotypical social conditioning wise. It's like that. And he said that back in the day when he was like a little bit earlier on his new musician journey, or a lot younger at least, he was going to Duke University, he said. And it's a bummer. He's going to come on the podcast. He's going to explain the same story. I'm going to probably want him to share it, but I'll share it and then he could share it. And from what I remember, this is what the story was. He was going to Duke University, and he got a didgeridoo, and he started, and I forget, I think he was gifted it or something like that. And he started playing it, but he couldn't get the hang of it. Like, it requires so much lung capacity, and it's like such a deep meditative thing. It's like, and what happened is he tried for like a while and he couldn't figure it out. He says he felt like he was wasting his time. He felt like restless. He felt like his lungs weren't big enough. And he gave that a meaning. He said that what happened is he just decided, he's Brazilian. He's like, it's in my DNA. I'm Brazilian, that I probably don't have this. It's like an Aztec thing, or there's like different cultures. They probably have it in their DNA, and maybe their lungs are bigger, or they're able to tap more into their lung capacity because of their ethnicity or their culture. But I'm Brazilian, and I don't think I have that capability. So what he did is he put the didgeridoo in the back of the back corner of his room. And what I ended up doing is he ended up moving to another house years later, and there was this didgeridoo in the corner. And he had a buddy come over, and this buddy was like really good at playing the didgeridoo. And his buddy was like, he was like, yeah, man, if you figured out this didgeridoo thing, like I can't figure it out. I don't think that I'm made for it. And his friend, and I think his friend was like connected to, I forget it, but I think his friend was connected to the Aztec, or connected somehow to where like he was like, oh, that you are of this ethnicity, so you would probably be good at it. And he just knew his friend was good at the didgeridoo. So his friend starts playing the didgeridoo amazingly and very well. And what happened is he started to play his didgeridoo, and he goes, after a minute, he goes, bro, no wonder you couldn't play this didgeridoo. it's cracked at the bottom. So the air is creeping out of it and seeping out of it. So there's almost no way you can make this sound good. So for years, Parangi had that of the didgeridoo in the corner with a story that I'm just not this ethnicity and or this culture, and I don't have it's not my DNA, and it's not made for me. And then all of a sudden, he started his friend actually gave him one that was working, and that's the one that he still has to this day. It's very special to him, and he says that within 48 hours, he was starting to dial it in. He just became so passionate about it ever since. That's one of his favorite instruments. So sometimes, I think the lesson here is that sometimes we may have a story that it's our ethnicity, our culture, our DNA. It's not for us. Somebody else just has it more innate than we do. And that story may be what's holding us back. But also, we may have an instrument that maybe isn't working, but we think it's us. So the key to this, I think, is becoming aware of that story that we tell ourselves. Becoming aware of the instruments we're using, not to blame it on them necessarily, but to be aware and to understand that we can develop any skills that we want. And it just takes a willingness and a determination that we're going to practice it. And the more you practice it, the more you begin to tap into that. Something else that he said is like, we think, sometimes when we think of music, we think of it very complicated. We're like, oh, this is E minor, this is D flat, these are these different notes. These notes, he said, are like, he doesn't really focus so much on the notes because the notes are just something we all agree upon. So we've all agreed, oh, this tone is D sharp. This tone is E flat, but it's all based on agreement. And what I find very interesting about that is he said, it doesn't really matter what note it is or if we label it. It's like just what sounds good. We judge ourselves, and it's a judgment that we make. Oh, this sounds like this sounds like that. Just how does it sound? And if we start focusing more on that, we can use more of our intuitional abilities. And that's something that I've had to, I judge myself when I start playing certain music, and I'm like, oh, is this right? Is this wrong? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? And then I get in my head about it. And the best music, and I've done a drum circle before. I met up with my buddy Drew and I. We went to see Paul Check, who's also like a well-known, he's kind of like health, I don't know what you call it. He's like a health coach in many ways. Anyways, he's been around a long time, but we went to his house, we did a drum circle, and I realized the more I let go and the more I allowed it to flow through, the better it was. So, a lot of, and then, so anyways, after being around Parangi for a while, we were playing instruments, he was teaching us things. It was super cool, but it was so inspiring. It made me realize that music is like also a way that we balance out the feminine, masculine energies inside of us. It's also a way that we balance out the left brain, the right brain. That's why I'm going to get a really cool hang drum that I'll be playing. I'm really tapping. I'm going to have music literally in this room. You will see in this room if you're watching this video right now, because I'm going to be putting this video on the second YouTube channel as well, the Aaron Doughty podcast channel. In a couple months, you will see this room, and it'll be completely different. There will be instruments all around. It'll be really cool, and I'm really excited for that. So, when it comes to music in general, I wanted to share those stories with you, but also I wanted to share like the couple different ways that I use music in my own life. Is one of them is I use something called binaural beats. Now, binaural beats is where there's one frequency in one ear. And then you normally use headphones for this. So there's one frequency in one ear, there's another frequency in the other ear, and then it creates this harmonic balance in the middle. And part of it is like there's different hertz. So there's like 432 hertz, all these different hertz, and they resonate with different parts of the body, maybe the heart chakra. And I've been using binaural beats for years, and it's a very powerful way to get into certain states of consciousness. And there's a specific theta wave one that I used to use a lot. I used to use theta wave. Theta wave, you've got alpha, you've got beta, alpha, theta wave. Those are the main three that we need to know. Now, when we're in beta state, we're in very alert state, kind of like fear state. When we're in alpha state, we're in a more relaxed, more confident state. We're normally watching TVs in an alpha state because TV's programming your subconscious mind. So when you watch TV, you're very relaxed. And the way that the TV is set up, it just keeps us in an alpha state. Theta state's a state we get into in sleep, and also in deep levels of meditation. So when you wake up in the morning, you are moving from a theta state of being deeply in deep sleep, which is more delta. So delta, deep sleep, theta, more meditative sleep, and a sleep state as well. And then you have alpha state and then beta state. So as you wake up in the morning, the first 30 minutes a day, you're drifting from the delta to the theta to the alpha to the beta state. And then at nighttime, as you go into bed, the half an hour as you fall asleep, you're going from the beta to the alpha to the theta to the delta state. And that window of time is so powerful to reprogram your subconscious mind. But most of your subconscious mind is programmed in the theta state. So the problem is that because most of our mind is programmed in the theta state when we were younger, we were primarily in theta state between 0 to like 8 to 12 years old. So when we're younger, we're just absorbing the beliefs of our parents. We're generating meaning about what things mean in life, and that's having an effect on our reality and what we experience. Now, the thing to remember about this is that when we talk about, what was I talking about? Wow. Oh yeah, the alpha beta state. That's weird. It's the thing with Sedona sometimes. Sometimes you'll just be sitting there and there'll be like little kind of like downloads, you could call them. I know it sounds kind of esoteric and flighty, but this does happen sometimes. So when it comes to when we're growing up, we're in mainly that theta state. And the idea is as we get older, it gets a little bit harder for us to like influence our theta state, our subconscious mind. But one way we could do that is by getting into a theta state and meditating. Meditating will put you in a theta state. And the other thing is not just meditating, but also using binaural beats. And you can find a lot of binaural beats online, but it's also sometimes mixed with music. It's a sound, it's a sound frequency as well. But yeah, I found theta waves to be a very powerful way to tap it into my subconscious mind. Sometimes what I do is I get into a theta state with the binaural beats, and then I imagine what I want to create in my life, and I wire it in and to make it comfortable. So it's more about changing my identity. I use visualization to change my identity in many ways. So that's one way. You can use music and sound to raise your vibration. You can also use music and sound to dance. Dancing is another way to raise your vibration, moving your body. It's a way for a lot of people that are very stiff and that are afraid to like express themselves to really loosen up. And like a static dance is something that's very powerful. But in general, when it comes to raising your vibration, you want to think of letting go. If you can let go of what people think and you can just dance, it's going to raise your vibration. If you can let go and just be and just get into the movement of your body, you're going to be moving energy as well. So it's very powerful for moving energy. Now, another way to raise your vibration using music is guided meditations. I have probably 50 to 100 guided meditations on YouTube that are free. One of them is how to raise your dominant vibration permanently. And that has music in the background, and I use voice in order to kind of move certain points of awareness, things that we become aware of within ourselves. And I think music is just a super powerful way for us to transform our consciousness, and especially using guided meditation. The magic of meditation is that you get into a very relaxed alpha theta state, and then the suggestions, that positive suggestions in there, have more of an impact. So guided meditations is also very powerful for using and using that of music. Also, just listening to music to change your state. Think about it. Music creates emotion. And some people are more auditory than visual. I was at a rugs. I'm looking at rugs right now for this room because I want this room to be really cool for the podcast and just for chilling and everything. And I was at this rug store yesterday. You guys will not believe how much some of these rugs are. I was looking at rugs yesterday at this rug store, and I was like, how much is this rug? Because there's a rug there that's amazing, beautifully made, silk, like this blue with like orange in it. It's exactly the color that I'd want in this room. The rug's in here right now. I was going to go into a different room. And I was like, how much is this rug? And they're like, oh, this one's only $6,400. I'm like, $6,400? I can spend those $6,400 on a rug? But there's always things in life that when you pay more attention to, there's a certain level of appreciation there. I'm still not going to spend $6,400 on a rug. No way. However, some people, he told me, this sales guy was like, hey, when some people, and I believe this, when some people go in, they would look at certain rugs and it would bring them to tears. They would like tear up. It was so beautiful. And have you ever listened to music that was so beautiful that you teared up? I know I have. I was watching like this chef show. It's called like Final Table on Netflix. And it's a really cool chef show, competition show. And the way these people talk about food, the way they relate to food is like food is an emotion. If you can make a beautiful dish that reminds you of home, that reminds you of your grandma, that reminds you of something inside of you, some story, music, food, rugs, these things can make us tear up and move us with emotion. And music is the same way. Music literally has parts there's parts in your brain that are connected to memory that's also connected to music. So when you listen to certain music, it will literally activate certain memories within you that will bring you to feel certain emotion. So you can use them. You can also use music to help you to feel certain emotion. Now, some music that I listen to is I'm a big fan of Enigma, Enya, Black Mill is another like kind of band, or it's like more like electronic chill step. I like chill step a lot. If you just go to YouTube and type in chill step, you'll find a whole bunch of different music playlists that I listen to in the background while I'm like doing work. I love chill step for that. Certain music will have different vibes. Music is also an anchor. When you listen to certain songs, it anchors you in a certain way. It's funny, there's a Tony Robbins playlist. I've been to a Tony Robbins event before, and one thing he does very well is at his events, it's like a live show, and there's certain songs and music that comes on at certain times when certain things are happening, and it evokes emotion within the crowd. But because one thing you do in Tony Robbins events is you get up and dance every like 10, 15 minutes to stay awake, because they're like 12-hour long seminars. And there's certain songs that are very like hype you up, And it's funny because I'll listen to some of those songs now and it will remind me of Tony Robbins' seminars, but you get hyped up just listening to it because it's an anchor. So music can also be a very powerful anchor. So the thing that I want to really encourage you to do in this episode is to go within and to tap into your own music ability. Let go of the story that you're not musical. He was like, your voice is music. You could sing in the shower unapologetically. You can get a simple drum, bang on a drum. You can make noise with your hands, even just patting it on the floor. I don't know if you can hear that with this, but there's different things you could do. And as you tap more into your music ability, you'll find that it balances out the energies inside of you. It's also a very yin exercise. I've been realizing since moving to Sedona, I've been doing a lot of yang stuff. There's a yin and yang. Yang is very masculine. I've been riding mountain bikes. I've been doing a whole bunch of hiking and doing some hiking in some ways can be yin, but I've been doing very yang things, going to the gym. Yin is very taking in, relaxing, go to the creek, do music, get to this present to the moment. And as I balance it out, I feel so much better. But also I'm inspired. Like I'm inspired to use instruments and to create music and to tap into the side of myself that I never really tapped into before. So I encourage you to do the same thing. Share with me your high vibrational music that you listen to as well. Maybe share it on Instagram, maybe screenshot this and then tag your favorite music, and I'll be sharing those as well. And I would love to hear. And if you haven't already, could you do me a favor as well and review the podcast? It really helps the podcast grow. I'm putting a lot more energy into the podcast these days, so helps me know that I'm on the right track. And I can't see the stats as I can on YouTube, so I don't know how many people necessarily are listening. I know that I get a lot of feedback that people love the podcast, but it's good to know as well. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll talk to you later. Peace, much love, and namaste.